Hi, I'm Caitlin, and I'm going to be explaining a little bit about how ecology taught me that everything's kind of interconnected, and every factor, whether it's biotic or abiotic, plays some role in the balance or imbalance of that ecosystem. So it could be something as simple as a plant-based food source, and this food source is either non-existent or very scarce that year. So its primary consumer is going to be affected because it doesn't have the food to live off of. And the predator of that primary consumer is also going to be affected because there's either going to be less or none of that primary consumer. So it's not just, oh, this plant didn't flourish this year. It's everything after that is affected too. And pretty soon, the entire food chain is, affected. And of course, on a global scale, this is much more complex than just, a simple chain reaction. And I think one of the biggest things that people talk about when they're talking about global interdependence is the idea of global warming. Because every country is contributing, well, every industrialized country is contributing some volume of pollution. So it's not just one or two countries, it's everyone. Everyone's contributing, everyone's being affected. So, say if we were, for some reason, to release this incredible amount of CO2 emissions, it wouldn't just be us, it would be everyone that feels that. And so if that were to happen, then, the ocean would be affected, the environment out here would be infected. If for some reason we release this incredible amount of pollution or CO2 emissions or whatever it may be, it wouldn't be just us affected, it would be everyone affected. It would be all the environments, all the ecosystems would feel it. So, just an example, that carbon wouldn't just, disappear or hang out. Like, it would end up being sequestered into the ocean and it would lower the pH and then affect the species that live there because that lower pH is unsuitable for them to live and thrive and procreate. So the idea of solving global warming, I personally don't think we're close to doing that because we rely so heavily on these inventions and mass production and technology that requires this non-renewable and toxic energy. So even though I don't think that we can um, completely solve it as it is right now, I think we can lower our contribution. Another example of this global interdependence is in regards of that non-renewable energy. So because there's a finite amount on Earth, it's crucial that we manage that. Much of our non-renewable energy sources come from outside the US. So in a way, we have to depend on other countries for this energy. And since we cannot yet rely solely on renewable and clean energy, it's important that we manage this non-renewable energy since we are using it faster than the earth can replace it. It becomes this valuable resource that we have to depend on other countries for it, and they have to depend on, and everything kind of interlocks. So they need it, we need it, we all have to manage it because there's a finite amount on Earth, and we're using it much faster than it can be replaced. And my last example of global interdependence is that of trash and waste management. So every country produces, some amount of waste, and how we dispose of that waste is very important. So if we're using and disposing of a lot of plastics and somehow it finds its way into the ocean, then it's not just our problem. It's not just our trash. It could find its way to someone else's shore or just stay in the ocean and affect the overall ecology in the ocean. The disposal of that waste is important because it's not just our trash. It has to go somewhere. It, you know, we put it in our garbage and it gets taken away, but we don't know where. It has to go somewhere. So our actions aren't just exclusive of one another. Everything affects each other. So where we put our trash, how we dispose of it, how we get our energy, how we use it, our emissions, everything kind of interlocks. We all think of each other as like separate countries, separate continents. Each country and continent has its own problems, but in reality, everything kind of coincides. So it's important that we realize that so that we can try our best to reduce our carbon footprint, our emissions, and, our wastefulness, because we never know what that, even the smallest action, could do.